Chris, how are you finding Australia?
Fine, thank you. Well, actually, no. Oh, God. Australia's all right. You know, it's just sort of like New Zealand, except not as good. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. All right.
You're going back to New Zealand soon, though, aren't you?
Yeah.
I was walking through our grave. I couldn't understand all the things that had gone on with this band, and the whole damn thing was crazy, and the whole damn thing was weird, so we thought we'd break it up and go home. Everybody seemed to think that we were crazy, but who cares?
Many years ago, when we were little, we got involved in the rock and roll industry. And we became very big in New Zealand, very big indeed. Everybody liked us. We were called Toy Love. There were 5 of us, and they made us tour all the time. So we didn't have any time to write songs or practice them. We thought this was a distinctly bad idea. So we broke up. But Alec and I were so much in love that we couldn't separate, could we, Alec? And Alec will take over the story from there. So
An impact is getting on youth from facing your own front room that gets you everywhere. You and your friends are having fun. You got your fears on the run. Pomp and circumstance, being friends with some envy gets you everywhere.
And I was pretty much stuck in Auckland with a heavily pregnant girlfriend after being almost a pop idol, and things changed remarkably. But anyway, my grandma died, my nana died, and she left me $2,500 or something. And I thought, what could I spend this on? I could get something for the soon-to-be newborn, I suppose, or had a few thoughts, but then thought, oh no, bugger it, I'll see if I can buy something to record onto. The 4-track. Basically, Doug Hood and I, with Doug doing most of the engineering, made possible an awful lot of the early Flying Nun stuff.
really clean. And we were touring and Roger just tracked us down. He was working a record store in Christchurch. So he came along. He just rang us and came and visited us when we were on tour in Auckland.
Just said, I've got this new, I'm setting up this label, do you want to record? And they just sort of foolishly said yes.
He met Chris Knox, who was the guardians of things pure and very careful about what was going to happen to Clean, because at that point they were definitely one of the best rock bands I think the world has ever seen. When the Clean fired up in the early 80s, there was nothing like it.
They were just a phenomenally good band, and I really felt that they needed to have a record release, that there's something, it needed to be documented in some shape or form.
He was the first one to really show any interest, from a label, real interest, I guess.
Yeah, he was very enthusiastic.
He responded to the aesthetic of what we're about,
I think it was David Courier just sort of said, we were just talking, and he was saying, there's some other bands in Dunedin you should hear.
By the time Tally Ho came out, the Verlaines, the Chills, the Sneaky Feelings, they were already active in various stages of getting it together.
Writing the song, it really was one of those moments you read about where things just sort of pour through as fast as you can keep up with it. So, I believe in this tapping into things on the other side occasionally.
I'd heard a few of them, or there might have been a tape, or there might not have even been a tape. Chris Knox and Doug Hood came down with their 4-track set up at Paul Keen's house in Christchurch.
Paul's place.
Yeah, we just seemed to record here, so Chills and the Stones both got recorded here.
The unfortunate thing about the Chills is we'd never even done any demos. If we had, we would have learnt some tricks. wouldn't have tried to do everything all at once, all the backwards guitars, all the little tricks that you sort of like read about and looking forward to doing. But the first recordings, hearing them back, it was very exciting, and there's something so thrilling about knowing that what was simply an idea in your head now exists and can be heard by other people and start to get out there into the world.
Don't need a red light bulb, I can see Mars. We've got a stereo and electric guitars.
Roger had decided that this releasing a record was a good idea. He saw, I think, most of the bands that were on the Dunedin Double, and we came up to Christchurch and supported the Clean. And we travelled up with Sneaky Feelings, I think a week or two later, and did it at Rex Visible's flat on Barbados Street. Chris Knox with his 4-track and Doug Hood operating it. We didn't have the faintest idea what we were doing. It was, considering we only had 4 tracks to work with, we sort of actually made some kind of, got a grasp on what the technology could do. 19 years old or whatever, and kind of, you've done it, and then, just the rough mix gets played back to you, and it's kind of like, did we create that? Man, I want to do this for the rest of my life. It's just a huge buzz. Incredible.
The whole impact has been on the songs themselves. People have been working on that because, you may have a big lighting show and sort of good clothes and good moves, but, lighting and good moves don't count for a record, which is why I think Dunedin bands, because they're concentrating on just writing the songs, are constantly putting out good records.
An unforeseen sensation. This world is really going to hell, but mine is going up. Premature congratulations. Let's hope this hope is more than hope before I get it up. Somewhere in heaven I believe that God was there, or maybe he just wasn't breathing and wasn't his tongue in my ear. He was charging with his tension as the cardboard cutout actors rush their roles climatically.
Wayne was only about 20 or 21 when he died, and he's a very talented guy, and he had a lot to offer and a lot of things to do. personally I found it quite devastating. You know, he's a great friend and all that kind of stuff. So as a human being, you know, you sort of go from one level to the next. You know, it's called growing up, I think, and I definitely think, you know, a situation like that does make you grow up a bit and look at the bigger picture a wee bit more, and I think that was reflected in the music as well.
Straitjacketfits formed at the end of 1986. John, the drummer, and I had been in a band previously called the Doublehappys, and that band ended when the other member of it died, and sort of the whole circumstances surrounding that made John and I pretty determined to carry on really and keep playing music.
Attention to yourselves without even moving out of Christchurch. What do you think it is that makes the band stand out?
Oh, it's hard to say really. Sort of like we've been lucky, had a lot of airplay on student radio, been sort of able to go into a studio and record and do that sort of thing. Just been lucky, I guess.
Yeah, name sort of had something to do with it, the length of it. And
Can we read anything into the name Jean-Paul Sartre Experience?
That's a difficult one, really. It's sort of a contrived name, if you like. It's an eye-grabbing name, but it's got nothing to do with our music, really. It's just a name to sort of grab the attention of whoever sees it, so they go on and listen to the music. But the music itself is quite diverse. Like we started off with that first EP and Flex and that sort of thing.
And then the sound sort of goes from one thing to the next. We're not sort of aiming to be this band or that band or sound like this or sound like that. It's whatever, three songwriters, there's all sorts of different feelings and things, people listen to different sorts of music, so, it's not one sound, it's sort of, sometimes we play sort of funk rock and punk rock and wimp rock and, but with the new EP we're recording, we sort of want a sparser sound, to do with where we have to record as well, and the sort of limited resources. In the studio, things seem to work better with a sparser sound, so.
The Gordons were a teenage band, you know, and we bumped into one another, and we were all fairly crazy, and we formed a band in a few days and had our first gig, you know, about 5 days after we met and stuff like that. And John named the band the Gordons.
We had big dreams with Bailter Space too, because we sort of managed to get to New York and play the New Music Seminar, and then of course that led to Bailter Space getting a deal with Matador. I remember in New York at the time we played with the Bats. People in Boston and in some cases New York didn't perceive Bailter Space in a very fond way, because they thought that Bailter Space was a bit too extreme, you know, because everybody was kind of into the more of the pop aspect of what Flying Nun was at the time.
By the time we moved to Wellington in mid-80s, and we built our own studio and recording our own stuff and using samplers and, you know, writing kooky stuff to loops, that we didn't think we fitted at all. But, you know, we sent them our Skeptics 3 album, and they were into it, so it was like, shock horror. I think at the time we would have been the only band in Wellington that would have been a Flying Nun band. And perhaps the only people similar to us at the time on Flying Nun would have been the Headless Chickens.
Is this thing on?
What a blow for you, Kathy.
Yeah. And I really did think my world had come to an end.
We found Children's Hour practicing while we were doing a recording of somebody up at Progressive Studios, and they sounded pretty shit hot, so we grabbed them, and I guess they, especially after they evolved into Headless Chickens, they were the first, you know, sort of big Auckland success.
You only have to listen to Children's Hour and then listen to the Verlaines and Sneaky Feelings. I mean, there's a huge disparity, but the thing is that there's actually a lot of Auckland bands and Christchurch bands too who were doing quite similar stuff. A lot of the early Christchurch bands that were on Flying Nun were probably, you know, mining fairly similar territory to what we were. The very dark end of like the Velvet Underground and, you know, the Stooges and stuff like that, and then through to the post-punk stuff. But Dunedin had a very different scene altogether, I think, probably from the rest of the country, really. I mean, our touchstone really was probably the Gordons, as opposed to, well, I don't know. I mean, bands like The Clean, they were kind of into all sorts of stuff, but I kind of always got the impression that their major influences would have been like, you know, indie, garage 60s kind of stuff, and some early 70s stuff like Can and Faust and things like that, you know, that real motoric hypno beats that Hamish used to play.
We are the Children's Hour, the song's called Slaughterhouse.
That was the thing about Snap. I loved the fact that I was using someone from outside Dunedin, because I was actually thoroughly sick to death with that fucking Dunedin sound. I didn't want to hear another jangly guitar if I ever lived at that point. And for me, sound is the beginning of all music. For some people it's rhythm, you know, but for me it's sound. I mean, after all, that's what makes you listen to something. band came along, the Chills. I only stayed 1 year, I couldn't stand it. I sort of got to know most of the bands. Doublehappys. Wayne Elsey was a tragic loss. Extraordinary songwriter. Like the Dunedin Double, that's my favourite, like the Stones. You know, with him playing. And the others are good too. You know, I've got to appreciate practically all of it, you know.
What do you think of the Flying Nun?
No, the Pin Groups.
The Pin Group.
Pin Group.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about. I've
Haven't
never
seen
seen
them?
them. No. Apart from your poster.
What do you think they're good?
We're in the Pin Group, and there was talk of making a record, and there was talk of this guy Roger starting a label, and we thought, oh, can you actually do that? You know, we had this idea that you had to be a, you know, EMI or RCA or whatever at the time, you know, and that you had to pay a lot of money to register a company. But evidently Roger had the nerve to start a label, and we were going to be the first record on it.
Flying Nun was, to me, the epitome of the punk ethic, in that it was tiny. It had capital of $50 to get itself going, and it had no idea of what it was doing, which just seemed perfect. And luckily I came upon a 4-track after me Nana died and gave me some money, and so we were able to finally do the punk thing, totally post-punk, and not in the form of what you think of as punk, but certainly the content was punk and the attitude was punk.
I know I cry, I know that maybe I will love. We slide, we climb, we fly when we have got the time. You speak, you call, you speak in words at me, fuck all, you're deaf and dumb. Your breath surrounds me as I come. And I will cry for you, maybe even die for you. Pluck out both my eyes for you. If you don't leave me, please believe me. If you don't leave me, please believe me. We live, we love, we live. Your hand inside my glove, I sing. You carve, we bring together our two hearts. Will cry for you, maybe even die for you. Pluck out both my eyes for you. If you don't leave me, please believe me. If you don't leave me, please believe me. And I will cry for you, maybe even die for you.
We started in 78 and reformed in 88 in London for a one-off gig. Yeah. Basically we were just sort of like wanting a break. Back in 82 was when we first broke up, I guess. And the break just ended up being, you know, like
6 years. And since then we've all become like involved in other projects. So the Clean is just one project that the three of us have, involved in other things, other musical things.
Now that you've reformed, is there a bit of a sort of buzz in New Zealand about that the Pistols have got back together again or something like that?
No, not really. No, I don't think anyone's ever seen this as New Zealand's version of the Pistols. So I think it's sort of been an English thing, really. People have been like, someone's picked up on that in the media here. But there's been a buzz. I think there's been a buzz from a lot of young people that didn't actually get a chance to see us, when we're actually going. But yeah, there's definitely interest here. There's interest in the new material we're writing. It's also there's also skepticism as well. But yeah, there's interest for sure. Yeah.